Temple Apostolic Ministry. This is going to be slightly abbreviated. We have one service today, and so we're going to go ahead and get right into it. We seem to have a few people that are still on the way, but God willing, they will be arriving. So Pastor asked me to handle the teaching on the next couple of Sundays, of weeks, right? And so that can always be along with everything else. When you got a lot of us, have full-time responsibility and a secular job, and then you keep the paycheck rolling and all of that. And that can be a lot of things going on at once, and trying to decide what is the time. Yeah, exactly, the time of the season. What message to bring to the people, and of course you look to God for some push, some guidance on that, and then you have to take it and figure out where you're going. Right? So we were talking a lot of these past weeks, right, about what were we talking about? Elderly love, yeah. Did we talk about love? And what was the other word that we had? Along with that, charity, right? Charity. Okay. So is love easy? Is it without any effort? Is it just go by itself? Decisions. Yeah. Action. Oh, all right. So tell us, Elder, if every time your anniversary came, or Christmas, or a birthday, or something, and you just had some sort of an excuse and said, lovely wife, I didn't make it to the store. You might get away with it maybe once or twice, right? But if this was a consistent pattern year after year, first lady's going, no. What would you be kind of proving there, right? You might be saying one thing, but you're not putting any action towards it. All right, this is work, right? It's work, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that right? First lady, you were married how long now? Oh yeah, that's right. You're not supposed to ask that, because then by guessing from there, you can kind of pull out somebody's age, and you're not supposed to ask a woman that question. So we go with 29 years old always, right?
Yeah.
So we'll say you've been married a few years, and so you have some background here, right? And you agree with Elder's summation? It wasn't always smooth, was it? There were some speed bumps, weren't there? Uh-huh. Huh? It was tough from time to time, right?
Yes.
Right? There was what had to be put to work, right? And if you're a diligent employee, or if you're a diligent spouse, not only does it work, you have to be faithful on the work, right? It's not you can do it when you feel like it, right? If I just decided, every other 3 or 4 days I just call up the boss again, I'm not turning on my computer this morning. I'm not signing into my phone. Just don't look for me to do anything today. I'm just not feeling it. Just not feeling it. How long do you think I would keep that position? Seeing that there's basically 3 of us in the core, and then we have this help desk and stuff, which is a outside firm, a contract. But when they can't fix something, it comes to one of us 3. And we all have different strengths and different weaknesses, right? And so there might be something, and one of the other guys goes, "Oh yeah, I know how to fix that in 10 minutes." But great, can you take that? Because it'll probably take me an hour to figure out what I'm looking at here, because I ain't never seen this before. But you tell me you have. So can you go ahead and take that? Well, sure. And then the flip side comes too. There might be something that I've seen, or a client that we brought across from before that I've dealt with for about 6 years here, right? And I know all about their system. And it's something that I can just jump in. But it's still work. Isn't it?
It is.
Isn't it? Yeah. Okay? So me expand on it. I'm not going to tell you my title yet. I've heard it said there are 2 people in the world that ever volunteered to die for you. The American soldier for your freedom, and Jesus Christ for your salvation.
That's right.
Yes.
There is a lot of truth in both of these statements, but it doesn't nearly tell all of it. Okay? In the worldly realm, people have many reasons for enlisting. Some, it might be because they have a long, proud family tradition of service that may reach back all the way to General George Washington or Robert E. Lee, John Paul Jones of the Continental Navy. Right? They may be, 12th generation sailor. My great-grandfather was an admiral. Well, my great-grandfather was not an admiral. He was actually a colonel. Anyway, I'm just saying, as people, some have a long, rich tradition in their family of military service. Right? For some, it's a way to escape poverty and lack of education. Let's be honest here. Not everybody really. There's a whole lot of truth in life not being fair. Right?
Yep.
This is not communism. We don't all get the same shot, do we? Some of us are born with the proverbial silver spoon, right? We never have to worry about money because daddy and grandfather and great-grandfather are just, stacking it up in a warehouse. And some of us are pulling out our pocket and figuring if there's anything in between the lint that we can actually use to pay a bill. Yeah, life ain't fair. So some people are choosing that as a way to get out of that vicious cycle. And I respect that. The military will take you in. They'll train you. They'll give you a place to sleep. They'll give you something to eat. And they will give you a purpose. That's what people are looking for, a purpose. Right? For some, it's to escape a crushing childhood or terrible situations, to have a feeling of belonging in or of a team, right? A family and cohesion. They got your back, you got theirs. Perhaps something they never received in their childhood. They might have been an orphan. They might have just had parents that honestly maybe really were cut out for parenthood. I mean, again, let's be brutally honest here, right? Not everybody, even the ones that may think they are actually good parents. And that's sad, but it's actually a fact as well. So, they may be doing this to get away from that. Right? It's a basic human need for bonding, to belong, to be in the pack, right? And what was that last one? What was the one we were talking about before? Hello, right? No man left behind, right? The creed of the battlefield, right? If you're down, are they just going to take off and say, well, yeah, that's insane for me to go after this guy because they're still shooting at us? Well, he'll crawl his way out. Okay. No way. No way. You read over and over again
No man left behind.
of a whole team. Vietnam pilot gets shot down, has to eject from his crippled aircraft, right? Ends up in the jungle. They sent 2 or 3 helicopters. They sent a forward air controller. They sent a gunship or more. All because they lost one guy.
That's right.
Now you've got 40 others with their butts on the line as well, just so they can go fetch one guy out of the jungle. Some countries would be like, yeah, you're done. That's it. Crawl your way out if you can. Forget it, buddy. We really don't care. That's your problem because that's just their mentality. The individual doesn't matter. It's the collective, right? We don't look at it like that at all. A lot of you know I'm a big military history of any type buff, right? And there's many stories out there where they went out to fetch back one fella and lost 3, 4, 5, 10 others missing, killed, just to go get the one guy. And often they got the one guy back, but when he gets back to the base, he finds out that one of the gunships they sent out to protect him from the enemy at the time got blown up and lost its entire crew. So all those men died because they valued that other guy that they were going back for. We were soldiers. Example number 2. The biggest sacrifice ever. Jesus, our salvation, the ultimate POW.
Amen.
Why would I bring that up? The Third Geneva Convention, Article 17, states that a prisoner is required to answer nothing beyond his name, rank, and serial number. In the histories of the United States military, the written word, the annals, the highest honor bestowed upon any uniformed service is a Congressional Medal of Honor. To qualify, the action must have been witnessed and recorded by others during the action, and in these often short and terse summation surrounding these awards, we see the framework notes of uncommon valor, bravery, and sacrifice, far beyond normal measure, of those who gave their last full measure of sacrifice and devotion. For more often than not, these awards are rendered to the family posthumously, which means that the individual that they were witnessing was killed during that action, or may have died very recently afterwards due to serious injuries that were beyond the treatment of medical science at that time. Right. Mark says this in 15:1. And straightway in the morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council, and bound Jesus and carried him away and delivered him to Pilate. How many times have we ever read about a single individual or a very small military team being captured, bound, and carried off to face a tribunal of their enemies? Whether it was a fair tribunal or not, most of the time they're not. They're usually what people like to call a kangaroo court. As they like to say, you'll be given a fair trial and then shot. Well, what about the fair trial part? You're sure I'm going to be shot? Oh, yeah, you're going to be shot. That's not really very fair then, is it?
They'll be heavy.
Delivered him to Pilate. Pilate asked him, Art thou the king of the Jews? And he answering said unto him, Thou sayest it. Pilate asked him again, saying, Answerest thou nothing? Behold, how many things they witnessed against him. Jesus yet answered nothing, and Pilate marveled. That was basically his equivalent of giving name, rank, and serial number blank. He gave up nothing. Said, I'm not going to defend myself. I'm not going to incriminate myself. I'm not going to give you anything to work with at all. Of course, he already knew what they were thinking. When you're captured, you don't know what your enemy's looking for. If there are certain things that you're privy to that are top secret, you know already to a degree what they're going to try to pry out of you. When the pilots were shot down in Vietnam, they would ask them questions. How many planes are in your group? What was your call sign? What base did you fly out of? And they would mess with these guys like big time. They would tell them that they were flying out of San Diego. You got to scribble it down. They say, what's your mission commander's name? Oh, Adolf Hitler. And they would write that down. They didn't know any of these people, right? Or they would tell them something completely off the wall, like Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. And what was Mickey Mouse's rank? Oh, he's a general. General Mickey Mouse. They would write this stuff down and forward it up to their VC commanders. And they probably had no idea either. But if it did make it finally to the desk of somebody that did know about all of those things, they're just going to be going, So they were giving them misinformation to try to throw them off the trail. They would lie about what kind of plane they were flying, or they would tell them that it was a different model, like maybe an older one that didn't have certain capabilities because they didn't want the enemy to know that a newer plane had been deployed that was better. So they go, oh, no, you're absolutely wrong. That wasn't a D model. That was an A model. That was the old one from 7 years ago. It can only blah, 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 and it only has this much fuel range, where they were lying that this thing had twice the armament and 50% more range, but they wouldn't give that away because you just don't do that. That's your job, to remain stoic. And what does it say Jesus did? He told him nothing. So he marveled at him being silent. He said, I ain't giving you anything here. And so Jesus was tried, wrongly found guilty by a kangaroo court late at night to avoid proper rule of law and public sentiment, right? Because he had some friends out there, didn't he? Right? What do we know from the other histories? It says he traveled, right, for 3.5 years. Right? Healed the sick. Took care of blindness. People regained their sight. Dead people raised.
Yes.
Leprosy cured, which was incurable. Actually, it's still incurable in my understanding. Once you have it, it's pretty much there. There's a lot of drugs that can be used to treat it, and I think it's mostly capable of being controlled. But as far as I am aware of, it does not ever go away. It's in your body and will stay there. Well, these people, he didn't just give them some nice penicillin he had in his back pocket. Say, here, you take 2 of these every day and you'll be good. He eradicated it. It was not anymore found in those persons' bodies. If they had a blood test back then and would find that the way we can, they would have looked and they would have said, this guy was a leper yesterday. There ain't nothing on this guy's blood now, today. But yesterday, his nose was about to fall off. His fingers were rotten. His eye socket. His ear had a big hole in it. Well, who is this guy? They're looking at him now, and he's perfect. He's restored. His nose looks like it's supposed to now. All the decay was removed that fast. So all these things that he did got him enemies, but also got him a lot of friends. Why didn't they show up to defend him? He's arrested on false charges here, but where were his defendants? They even said that the apostles ran off. Right? So Peter was hanging around nearby, and said that he was cold. So he goes over and he's like, "Oh, that's a really nice stove you got there. Yeah, you work on that a little bit." The girl says, "Your accent gives you away." Right? Isn't that recorded? That it said that? That she said, I think it says your speech bewrayeth you. I think, right? As Old English, obviously. Basically, like, yeah, that'd be like somebody from the Bronx going, "Yeah, I think that guy over there is from South Carolina. Y'all talk funny." You would know he wasn't from New York City. He's like, "Yeah, this guy's a foreigner." And he says, "Oh, absolutely not." And he continues to do that. And said he even cursed and swore, "I have no idea who this man is." And those were the ones that had traveled closest with him. And they still ran off, didn't they? And now he's facing this all alone, isn't he? So, found guilty by a kangaroo court late at night with proper rule of law, sent to the Roman overlords to be retried. They said, well, I don't know what to do with this guy, so they send him over. Send him over to Pilate, right? Pilate's wife, if you remember the story, warned in a dream. She tells Pilate, have nothing to do with this righteous man. Do not allow this absurd kangaroo system to continue rolling. He's done nothing. Release him. Why did Pilate ignore that advice? Because he was afraid of people, and he was afraid of Rome. He was already in trouble with the guys that he had to report to, who were not Jews, but were Roman citizens and politicians of power. And if he didn't want to be removed, or worse, he had to toe the line because he had already apparently done some things that were not very popular. So he was very afraid for not only his position, but also his life. And he said, well, I see what's going on here, and I see the way this thing's heading. I'm just going to keep going with the current. Let the river run. He turns him over. So he's retried, convicted, beaten, mocked, scourged, and executed. And on the third day, he rose again, having taken the opportunity in between to spoil death and hell, take the keys by the force of his authority, and make an open mockery of Lucifer and his powers. And he is a soldier of soldiers.
Amen.
And make no mistake, invoke no erroneous assumption, we are at war. The world does not like us. The world does not respect us. And the world does not want to hear from us. As Pastor said many, many times, you go to your office and you tell your coworker about the hot thing that you hooked up with last night and what you did to her. 28 different positions, and that's totally fine. Nobody's going to say anything about that. But say anything about your Christ or your religion, give them a testimony, and see what happens next. You're going to be out in front of HR, aren't you? If you're lucky, you're just going to get a reprimand. If you're not very lucky, you're going to get fired, aren't you? So how is that fair or equitable?
It's not.
The one thing you have no problem with, right? Even, in my understanding, most of the other religions are tolerated as well. Don't you start spreading that Christ stuff. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that at all. I'm going to go complaining. I worked night shift a long time ago in a place in the 90s. And they would allow us to play. Not loud, of course, but they permitted music on second shift. So I used to have a cassette player. Remember those, right? Still got one. Huh? I had that in a little portable thing, right? And I had it on my desk. And I had Cindy Morgan playing. And one of my coworkers didn't say anything about it. He just went straight to HR and said, I don't want to hear all that Christian religious crap. Tell him to shut that off. I don't want it. Well, it was okay for him to play AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and Ozzy Osbourne. I had to listen to that, but hey, it's stuff I'm playing now. That's unacceptable. You don't want to hear that. Huh. Yeah, sounds fair to me, right? So they don't want to hear from us, like I said, respect us, or even be near us, because we're ready to be anti-PC at any particular moment to lay out what the real truth is, right? God doesn't hate the sinner, but he's not going to be happy with the sin. They don't want to hear that. That's the part that they're having a problem with. You're telling about this hot number you hooked up with. It's like, well, was that your wife? Who? Then you find out they are married, and that's twice as bad because it wasn't his wife. And yet, that puts us in the category. So we're now intolerant, racist, bigoted, judgmental, backwards, unenlightened Bible thumpers, stuck in the puritanical 1600s. Get with the program here. Because we're not okay with LGBTQ, ABCD, BBD, LMN, OPXYZ, and you're going to be vocal about that problem. And they don't want to hear it. Paul said this to the church at Ephesus, starting 6 and 15. And your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, therewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication, capital S, Spirit, right? And watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. And for me, that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. What's he talking about there?
Talking about standing up for the word of God.
Well, what was the situation, his background when he was there? And why is he saying that I may open my mouth boldly, but yet he says I'm an ambassador in bondage? Why did he make that statement?
I'm saying they had a lot of persecution.
Indeed, they did.
And they wanted to even his own people
what happened
wanted
to
not
Paul?
to preach
What he was saying,
the meat of Jesus. You know.
Well,
he was a prisoner of Christ.
maybe not, because he was also in prison under the Romans when he was writing to the church at Ephesus. I think he had dual meanings there, as a lot of these things do. He was talking about, as Elder said, a prisoner of a subject to God. Yes, I don't say that that's wrong, but I think he was also saying, when he was saying in bonds, I believe he meant physically in bonds.
Right.
If you read this story, his history, he was arrested how many times? 3, was it not? So he was exonerated once, told not to do it again. Oh yeah, that really works out well. Telling an apostle not to talk about the only thing that really matters to him anywhere in his life at this point. That's gonna really be a factor. Don't do it again. Okay. As soon as he gets out the front door, yeah, forget you guys. I'm on it. Well, I'm like Donkey Kong. He gets arrested again. It's like, I told you, shut up. Well, I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm not selling used cars here. I'm not a door-to-door encyclopedia salesman. I'm selling the most important thing that you're going to ever hear. And I'm not even charging you for it. This one is free because the price was already paid.
Right.
Yes.
They told him to stop. He gets arrested again. They're like, all right, look, really? How many shots do you get in baseball? 3 strikes, you're out, right? Yeah. 3 outs, the end of the inning. Well, it was the end of the inning for Paul. Right? You read about his other letters, what was he writing? He wrote to Timothy a lot, right? And didn't he tell him that my end is soon? Should I run the race? He didn't say I ran, he said I run the race. I've kept the faith, done the good fight. He knew that his time was just about out. He had no illusion that he was going to skip on the first shot, that he was going to get away again and be released. Got to warn him that martyrdom was going to be his end. Actually, if you look back, the Fox's Book of Martyrs, all the apostles except for John died unnatural deaths
Yes.
many years before what should have been their time. I'm not sure if anybody knew exactly how old John was, but if I remember right, some people had conjectured that he may have been close to 100. he was finally released from the island of Patmos when the emperor who had put him there actually died before he did. Of course, you can guarantee the emperor was hoping that this troublemaker would expire quickly so they'd be rid of him because it was rather inconvenient. And you're like, well, why didn't they just kill him? Well, they tried. They boiled him in oil. It didn't work. And not only was it worse that it didn't work, they tried it in Rome. And the entire band of centurions that witnessed this were converted to Christianity because they're like, how can that be? We put this guy in 300-degree boiling material, oil, that should have made him look a lot like an Ore-Ida Crispy. And he's fine. He's completely untouched. Right? Like the boys that got stuck in the furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? In the Old Testament. He kept him from that same fate because he's like, I am not done with him yet. So inconveniently, he couldn't kill him. So he's like, well, I don't know. I probably would have tried beheading, honestly. It might be a little harder to get past that one, but whatever the reason was, the emperor gave up and said, fine, you know what, I'm just going to send this guy into exile. So he sent him to Patmos. Well, why wasn't he ready to die yet? It wasn't his time because he had one more job, didn't he? He had to write one more book. We would not have the book of Revelation if he had not been sent to Patmos. That was the time that he had where he was in that bondage. And other than that, relatively quiet. It was pretty much like getting sent to Alcatraz. You're not going to escape. So they weren't really particularly concerned about it because there was nowhere for him to run. Even if he escaped, I mean, I'm not even sure if they had gates and walls. So, well, why would you need it when you have an ocean around you? It's pretty effective. That's why the British used Australia as a prison. It's an awful long swim. You know, who needs to worry about guard towers and machine guns if you've got ocean full of sharks to take care of your problems for you? You're not going to escape. So he goes there and he writes Revelation. The emperor dies, he gets released. But he was the only one. So you might say that's kind of unfair. Why was he the only guy that got spared all of the other nastiness? Well, you might have to ask God again. I don't know. That's a really interesting question. Somebody needed to write that book. So why did he choose John to do it? Well, said John was the beloved disciple, right? So maybe it was just another one of those partisan things. Like I said, life ain't fair. Some people win the lottery randomly. Some people struggle financially forever. It's not equal. But back to his statement there. Your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench the fiery darts of the wicked. Take the helmet of salvation. All those parts where we got up to there are what sort of machines, what sort of construct? Those are all defensive, aren't they? Usually don't take your helmet off and throw it at somebody. It's designed to protect your head, right? And he tells you that you have a shield. We usually use a shield for it to deflect missiles or sword strikes, right? You ever watch any of the old fighting movies before everybody had guns? If you were right-handed, you had a sword over here, you had a shield attached to your forearm, and you would defend with it, right? And you would hold that and then poke to the side, keeping your body, hopefully, under protection of that metal or leather, whatever it was made out of. Sometimes they were wood, wrapped with leather coating. And you would try to do to the other fellow the same thing he was trying to do to you. Give you a good poke there. So if you look at all the other parts, they're all protecting you, aren't they? They're all defensive, except when it gets to the end. Why did he wait until the end? Was there significance to the order? We put those in. Well, if you're already dead, you're not much of a threat, are you? So defensive is important first, that you can keep from being killed or severely injured, which takes you off the battlefield regardless. Then you have to do something about it. So he mentions the sword last. The sword, you can do damage to others. Who are we looking to do damage to, according to what he's talking about here? He's saying that you put a hole, a cut, a bleed in Lucifer's kingdom. Be a pain in his neck. If you're not hurting him, he doesn't care. He's not coming after you, is he? Right? If somebody's on the ground already and your gun's 20 feet away, most of the time you're just going to keep running, right? And go past him and go to an active combatant because they're a threat. He's not. That is, assuming that, you're pretty sure that he doesn't have another little pistol hidden someplace or something like that and may shoot you as you're going past. But if you know for sure that that guy's down, you gonna spend any time with him? No. And Lucifer does the same thing to us, right? If we're not doing anything that's threatening him, are we going to be in his radar? He's not going to care. He's going to keep going after the people that are actually making a difference. Those are the ones that still have swords. Those are the ones that are still dangerous. What did he call our given word here? Translated from multiple languages and not converted into English. What does he call the Bible? He says it's a sword, doesn't he? He says it's your weapon. Don't leave home. Don't leave home without it. No, this is not your American Express card. This is a lot more powerful and a lot more dangerous than that. So he says, I'm sending you out with the sword, the capital S, the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. Now, he didn't say your spirit, did he? It's not small s. Right? So that means that you and me, by ourselves, are not dangerous. Because we all have little s spirit, don't we? It says that was given by God when we were made and created. But by ourselves, he doesn't really care about us. We're not a big deal. You got the capital S spirit. Now, you look like Rambo. You got a rack of grenades across on the belt, right? 2 pistols. You got your chain gun ready to go. You got a knife in your boot. You're a threat. Now you are ready to lay down some hurt. And watch it thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. So what are we supposed to be doing now that we're all armed up? We're supposed to be watching out for each other, aren't we? Isn't that what he just said in the next line? Because if you're strapped up with all sort of ammo and you're ready to go, you've got all these great weapons, and you're not doing anything with them, who are you helping? If you're cowering in a corner, you got an M16. Am I going to worry about you much? I mean, look over there, it's like that guy's a coward, he ain't going to shoot at me. You're going to be worried about the guys that are, the ones that are still out there in the grass. Those are the threats. We need to make sure we're not the guy cowering in the corner. Now for me, that utterance may be given unto me that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel. That's not only for you, is it? It's the best book we have, right? It's the most printed book in the history of the planet. Some people have made an awful lot of money as writers, and nobody yet that I'm aware of has passed the publication count of the Bible. So are we supposed to just put it on a shelf and let it collect dust? It's kind of useless if we don't take it out, isn't it? Anybody ever try to puzzle through a complicated radio in their car and is like, did you read the owner's manual? I don't read owner's manuals. Wow, what's that for? Oh, you mean that one that's been in your glove box since the first day you picked up the keys? You never pulled it out? Hey, dummy, if you look in there, it'll tell you how to work the radio. this is our owner's manual, and we need to make sure that it's not spending all this time in the glove box. What do people like to call that? Basic instruction before leaving Earth. Huh? That's what he's telling us. We need to show everybody else how the owner's manual reads. That I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. So he's telling us, right there, that what we were just talking about earlier, people are going to hate you. Right? They're not going to like what you have to say because of what? You're telling them what they're doing is what? Unacceptable. Right? Do they want to hear that? Do they want to know that that woman that is not their wife, they're hanging with, living with, and other things with? What did Jesus say to the woman when he got to the well? He started going down the list, didn't he? And she goes, I have no husband. He said, well said, because the man who you are with right now is not your husband. The other men may have been, but not this one. And this is the one that you're with right now. Cut it out. She runs off and says, come see man. And when they wanted to kill the prostitute, you know what happened there? Where's your accusers? No more. I accuse you not either. But he gave her one more injunction, didn't he? There was another order following that. He didn't say, don't worry about it. You know, papal blessing here, kiss the ring, you can go. There was another warning with that, wasn't there? Go and sin no more. Your career, if you want to call it that, your current method of earning money is over. Don't do it again, because the next time they drag you out to stone you, you're going to be stoned. Go and sin no more. And it records that she took that advice. She stopped what she was doing and turned. She was an ambassador in bonds, wasn't she? She was tied up. They were ready to kill her. He loosed the bonds. Said, I let you go. And what did she do? She went out and spake boldly, as he says that I ought to speak. And we shall be soldiers. Thank you for tuning in to TRTAM. I hope this message was edifying and gave you something to consider and to ponder on. Have a good day.